Grand rising, you beautiful souls. Welcome to Wake Up with Sonia Poulton and guests. It's Monday, 15th of September, 2025, exactly 9 a.m. British summertime. How you diddling? I hope you're all good. I do. I genuinely hope you're all good and well. Hello to all of you in the chat. How are you, you sweet, sweet people? And Swiss Miss, thank you for that early super sticker. You're very generous and I truly appreciate it. I appreciate you all. Yes, I do. Welcome to the show that asks, what's in a name? I asked because last week was all about the Robinsons, be that Tyler Robinson, who is alleged to have killed commentator Charlie Kirk, or Tommy Robinson, who led multitudes of people through London on Saturday. So what is in a name? I wonder indeed. How are you diddling, everybody? How are you? So yes, welcome to the show where my guests and I frequently ask difficult and sometimes unusual questions that might not even make sense in the moment, but they often will later. So what is on today's show? We will be joined by Sophie from the Luke Mitchell campaign on his parole hearing this month. This is a case that we've covered plenty of times, myself on this and in previous incarnations. We'll also be joined by activist Wayne Leighton. He was with us several times recently talking about his work to do with council tax and bailiffs, and he will be returning with a High Court update and news of a new book upcoming. And we'll be talking about events this week: Trump in the UK, Madeleine suspect free, and assisted dying debate for a second week in the Lords. And Charlie Kirk, let's be frank, what on earth is going on? Now, you know, on Friday, I did everything I could to reserve my judgment, but the events of the weekend have made me go, what on earth is going on? And I will go into that later in the show. We'll also be looking at the Unite the Kingdom March, which took place on Saturday in London, plus Epstein, Mandelson and Prince Andrew. More revelations to come. Of course, absolutely there will be. Can you hear me all good in the chat? Can you? Grand risings, gang, says Lisa. Hello, Randy. Good morning to you. And hello, Lawrence. How are you all? How are you all? Windy like crazy, says Robert. Paul, Jackie Smith is defending Keir Starmer on the media round for Labour this morning. Of course she is. Thank you, Christopher. Grand rising to you too. Thank you for your generosity. I appreciate that. Grand rising, Sonia, and all you amazing people, he says, as he gives us a super chat. That's very much appreciated. Good morning to you all. We'll also be looking at your shout, where you have your say on what's going on. And I want to end with, what if you had no obstacles in your way? What then? What would you do then? It's one of those blue sky moments, isn't it? And thank you again for being here. You people are incredible and I love you to bits. Yes, I do. Happy 4 a.m. from New York. I love you too, bold and disastrous. Give my love to New York, one of my most favorite cities in the entire multiverse. I love New York, the city that never sleeps, they say. And I'm still in bed. This is Pillow Talk. Well, you are literally waking up with Sonia then, Lawrence. Brett, Epstein didn't cark himself. And Brett, I don't think you're going to get much of an argument around here about that. I don't think any of us really truly believe that he took himself out. Right. Let's have a look at this week. What's going on? What's going on indeed? Well, things are going to get a bit spicy this week because Donald Trump's state visit to the UK starts tomorrow, Tuesday, September the 16th. And this follows, obviously, the sacking of US Ambassador Peter Mandelson, which we covered on Friday's show. And Mandelson's role this week was intended to be, he's the great and grand schmoozer and connector the idea was that he would be smoothing the path for Trump's address tomorrow. Actually, it went on Wednesday when he meets Charles and Camilla. And the idea was that Peter Mandelson was the one who's going to smooth all the path. Well, we shall see now whether that's going to be achievable, really. Because obviously what we heard last week was just like very serious revelations about Mandelson's deep and enduring relationship that continued with the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. So let's see. I'm pretty sure that Mandelson will still be around this week because even though they say we've withdrawn him, I think he'll still be in place for this visit. So I think that's going to be interesting. Plus, add that to the new threat that there are more Epstein files involving Andrew. Of course there are. Of course there are. Do we Does anybody genuinely believe that the only thing that we know about Andrew is Andrew and Virginia Giuffre? I never thought that. I mean, it's quite apparent there was more to come. Yes, indeed. Welcome, Trump. Please knock some sense into Starmer, says Nikki. Well, that will be interesting. So Wednesday is looking like it should get interesting for our King, Queen and the US president. Oh, yes, indeed. And Linda in the chat said, you missed some truth. It came out a few years ago, but buried. Trump was an FBI informant on Epstein. Speaker Johnson said it in a speech last week or so, helped on first conviction. If there was anything on Trump, don't you think they would have used it? They hate him so much. Well, so Linda, I know about that. I know what you're talking about. And actually, Speaker Mike Johnson backtracked on that. He revised it, didn't he? He said that, no, he said my wording was awkward. It was clumsy, not the right terminology. Trump wasn't an FBI informant. But here's the thing, Linda, it is highly possible that Trump was involved in implicating Jeffrey Epstein to the feds. Highly possible. But it doesn't mean they don't have anything on Trump. And I think that we can separate those two out, right? We can say it is possible that Trump was an FBI informant to do with Epstein, but it still doesn't mean that there isn't something on Trump. And in fact, from all of the behavior of Trump, I would say 100% there is. 100% there is. Anyway, so let's see what else. So yes, so Speaker Mike Johnson said what I was referring to in that long conversation was what the victim's attorney said more than a decade ago. And so that was about when Trump was talking about kicking Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago, you know, Trump's place, and a place that's not a great description, is there? You know, kind of like hotel and leisure and golfing there. And Speaker Mike Johnson said he was generally helpful when it came to law enforcement. I bet. We've seen Trump. We've seen what Trump is like when he falls out with people, right? This is a man who doesn't have a great deal of, let's see, restraint when it comes to saying things. Okay. And that's just a fact. That is just a fact. Peter, thank you for your super chat. I appreciate it. What else is going on this week? This little girl, will she ever get justice? Will she ever get justice? I wonder, because the Metropolitan Police have let it be known that even though this man, Christian Bruckner, is likely to be released from his German jail this week, might even be today, the Metropolitan Police still believe that he is a legitimate suspect in the disappearance of Madeline McCann. At this rate, I should have been a detective. At this rate, because these people haven't got a flipping clue what they're doing, or do they? Or do they? And what's interesting is that Christian Bruckner, who of course is the German patsy that Gonzalo Amaral, the original coordinating officer in Portugal, said there would be a German patsy. Maybe he's got a crystal ball. I don't know. But the point is that the Metropolitan Police are now ticked off because Christian Bruckner is refusing to talk to them. DCI Cranwell, who has been leading Operation Grange for a while, and certainly involved in it, said for a number of years we have worked closely with our policing colleagues in Germany and Portugal to investigate the disappearance of Madeleine McCann and support Madeleine's family to understand what happened on the evening of May 3, 2007. Please teach, may I suggest that Kate and Jerry McCann know what happened on May 3rd, 2007? Or is that an outrageous statement? No, what is outrageous is that the Metropolitan Police and Operation Grange stopped policing when it came to Madeleine McCann. They stopped policing, and we know it. And Cranwell went on to say, we are aware of the pending release from prison of a 49-year-old German man who has been the primary suspect in the German federal investigation into Madeleine's disappearance. We can confirm that this individual remains a suspect in the Metropolitan Police's own investigation. We have requested an interview with the German suspect, but for legal reasons, this can only be done via an international letter of request, which has been submitted. And apparently he's not having it. He's not interested, and who can blame him? And I heard from John Coxon. John Coxon is a former cop, been on before, but somebody who is very dedicated to this story and is involved in a number of groups. And he sent me a email saying, oh, okay, the mighty Operation Strange sent a letter to Christian Bruckner asking if he'd care to come and be interviewed. He remains a suspect. Hello, you've had 5 years to request such an interview. This is in regards to a child you claim could still be alive. Good point, John. Excellent point. John goes on to say, so if you're looking for a missing person, you believe it credible that this man may have information relevant to finding her dead or alive, but you waited for his release from prison to do anything about it. And John is a cop, so he knows what he's talking about. Yes, absolutely. They waited. What the heck is going on? These people think we're dumb. They do. They think we're dumb as a box of rocks, don't they? But we're not. And John went on to say the only likely letter you're going to be getting in reference to the Operation Grange people is one from Bruckner's lawyers. Looking forward to it. Indeed, we are, because I've been very clear. Christian Bruckner is not a good person. I don't believe for a second he is. He was imprisoned for the sexual assault of an elderly woman. This is not a good person, but it's so easy to frame not good people, right? So easy, because the public in general are very willing to lap it up. Look how they lapped up about Christian Bruckner, even though there's loads of evidence to suggest that poor dear Madeleine did not leave that apartment alive, which can only mean one of several things. Why aren't the police pursuing that? Ask the dogs. Ask the dogs, said Jerry. Yes, indeed. Continuing this week, by the way, Trump is, provided he's not hot-footed back to the US for some drama or another, Keir Starmer is planning to host Donald Trump at Chequers. Chequers is the Prime Minister's official residence, the place where Margaret Thatcher and Jimmy Savile spent many a happy Christmas and New Year together. And so we shall see. We shall see how this all goes. I think it's going to be interesting. Some interesting times. We are going through some interesting times, are we not? Yes, indeed, we are. And let's see. On Friday. On Friday, House of Lords continues to debate the awful assisted dying bill. Had the first session last Friday in the House of Lords. By all accounts, it was packed. And Esther Rantzen, TV personality, she showed up on Breakfast TV to weep with Kate Garraway, a woman who is linked to the Labour Party via her now departed husband, who worked for Brown and Blair and whose COVID journey was covered by his wife and garnered her shows, books and awards. But she was semi-weeping with Esther Rantzen because Esther Rantzen is desperate for the assisted dying bill to go through. And she says that she's now going to have to go off to Switzerland without her family to Dignitas. That's what she says. And I mean, put it this way. I've said it repeatedly. I might as well just say it again. And that is Esther Rantzen's been going on about this now for a year and a half. And if there was ever a good argument against assisted dying being made law, it's the fact that Esther Rantzen is still alive. There you go. I'm just going to repeat it. So it's the second reading of what they call the Terminally Ill Adults End of Life Bill in the House of Lords. And this is the second one. We shall see. We shall see what goes on there. Theresa May, former Prime Minister, not happy. She is now Baroness May. She spoke in opposition. She warned of the risks of medical cover-ups and saying she had a friend who calls it the license to kill bill. She said, in her view, the legislation would be an assisted suicide bill, adding suicide is wrong, but this bill effectively says suicide is okay. What message does that give to our society? And she went on to say, I worry about the impact it will have on people with disabilities, with chronic illness, with mental health problems, because there is a risk that legalizing assisted dying reinforces the dangerous notion that some lives are less worth living than others. And why wasn't Theresa May talking that sort of sense when she was in a position really to do something, i.e. Home Secretary and Prime Minister? Different forces operating on her now, right? And on Saturday, the Liberal Democrats' autumn conference opens, but no one really cares anymore because Lib Dems have frankly become the party of utter irrelevance. They were supposed to be different to the main parties, but they weren't. And in some respects, they were so much worse. Right. Let us talk about this. Saturday, London March, Unite the Kingdom. And you can see here, Tommy Robinson, Katie Hopkins, Lawrence Fox, and more around them. Many people by anyone's standards. That was a massively successful event. Massively. Numbers are difficult to tell. The Guardian has a video online which shows aerial shots. This will give you some idea. This is packed. Every which way you look, it's rammed. Every which way. There were, of course, two sets of opposing sides. This was the other one, Stand Up to Racism, considerably less, estimated to be around 5,000 people there. But judging on that picture, I'm not convinced. But no, the big one was definitely the Tommy Robinson Unite the Kingdom march. Let's talk about it. So police said that the Unite the Kingdom protest had exceeded the estimates of organisers, which meant that there was not enough space for it when they all kind of tried to cram into Whitehall and Parliament Square, come from Waterloo, march to Parliament. And but I think that we were also, in some respects, set up of what to expect. So let me just tell you this, right? So there were headlines before the event telling us to brace for chaos and brace for violence. Check this out. Brace for chaos, and Londoners brace for violence. And that's really problematic straight from the bat. There were two sets of opposing sides, as I say. Neither of them do I agree with completely, but both have elements that are right. Isn't that always the way? And what I didn't like about Saturday was having to tell loved ones who are brown that they should be careful going through central London. Absolutely awful feeling. That is troubling. And many people felt like that. Okay, that is a troubling thing. And we should really question why that is, because this was supposed to be about uniting the kingdom. And as far as I'm concerned, the kingdom, as they call it, although I don't, is not just made up of white people. And that is a problem, is very many innocent people are in danger of getting caught up in something like this, but actually didn't, right? So, but this is what we were told. Londoners brace for violence and we are braced for chaos. That's what we were told. We were set up for that. And it was kind of evident to me once I didn't go. I watched a lot of it though. And it was kind of evident to me. It looked peaceful enough, difficult to tell what it was they were actually marching for, though. Exactly. Was it free speech? Was it anti-immigration? And if it was free speech, Lawrence Fox is a terrible representative of that, as he has repeatedly sued people for saying hurty words about him. He is not these are not free speech people. They're not. Tommy Robinson might be. Because I've never actually seen has Tommy Robinson ever sued anybody? I've never seen Tommy Robinson go after anybody. So, but Lawrence Fox is not. Terrible person. And I don't think Katie Hopkins has sued people either over free speech, but she's certainly been sued. So, but Lawrence Fox, no, absolutely not. Terrible representative for free speech, because he doesn't represent it, doesn't represent free speech. And so what else? Tommy Robinson spoke at the event, obviously. He said that politicians were parroting his ideas, and he talked about the UK courts and about what happened last month in the Court of Appeal, when the Court of Appeal had given Labour, given the Home Office, the right to appeal the ruling, which said that a hotel within the vicinity of Epping in Essex was no longer going to be receiving migrants and asylum seekers. But the Court of Appeal overturned that to a degree and permitted an appeal. And then, of course, it was argued in court that the rights of the migrants kind of superseded those of the local community. And Tommy Robinson talked about that. And there was also Elon Musk was beamed in, tech billionaire. He was beamed in, spoke to Robinson and the protesters on Whitehall via a video link. He spoke about massive uncontrolled migration, called for a change of government in the UK. Something's got to be done, said Elon Musk as he was interviewed by Robinson. There's got to be a dissolution of Parliament and a new vote held. See, the thing about Elon Musk is he's become a big one for telling people about what they should do with their own countries. And yet, what did he do with his own country? He left it. He left South Africa. So I would suggest that perhaps what you need to do is actually go back to your own country and sort out there. Just sort out there. Because what we are seeing very clearly is what wealth buys you. And honestly, it is no different in so many respects than what Bill Gates does. I love this meme. We're sick of foreigners. We've had it with elites. Oh, wow. It's Elon Musk. And that is it, right? The only difference is a different demographic of people that then would follow Bill Gates. But it is no different. Elon Musk ain't your mate, kids, even if you think he is. obviously, as I say, we were all prepared for violence because that was what we were told. We were prepared for chaos. And honestly, I actually think that the newspapers were so happy when some happened. When some happened, look at some of these headlines. Tensions flare, say The Sun. And Daily Mail says, Tommy Robinson protesters hurl missiles at police who fight back as 110,000 strong, biggest ever anti-migrant demonstration takes over central London. And we were told that at least 26 officers have been injured. It's difficult to know how many people there. Estimates range anything from 100,000 to 500,000 and more. There's a lot of people there. So anyway, the headlines were all about violence, it just, and the Metropolitan Police said it's wholly unacceptable. They said that people have been arrested for a range of offences in what he described as, in what the Met had described as wholly unacceptable violence. What was interesting was the Metropolitan Police had already drafted in officers from other forces all around the UK, including Leicestershire, Nottinghamshire, Devon and Cornwall. And Assistant Commissioner Matt Twist said there is no doubt that many came to exercise their lawful right to protest, but there were many who came intent on violence, he said. Well, actually, comparatively, that's not many. If it is in the 20s, I think even if it was 100 with that kind of crowd, it's still very low. Still very low amount of arrests, and kind of like ended around about 6:30. Tommy Robinson promised another event because it was very successful. Robinson, of course, he was released from prison earlier this year. He was jailed last October after ignoring an order not to repeat a false claim about a Syrian refugee. And Sadiq Khan, honestly, I mean, Sadiq Khan is not the worst London mayor in living history, because he takes that place with Boris Johnson. They're both absolutely atrocious. But Sadiq Khan, what a loser. The problem with Sadiq Khan, many people have gone online, and what they're doing is they're comparing what happens at Notting Hill Carnival with what happened on Saturday. But you're just playing into the hands of division. Notting Hill Carnival attracts millions, okay? Not 100,000, attracts millions. And I absolutely don't agree with any of the violence that takes place at Notting Hill Carnival. But the moment people go, oh, well, you supported Notting Hill Carnival, but not Unite the Kingdom, is really problematic, because it's the whole division that we are being subjected to on a constant basis, which I will talk more about later when I talk about Charlie Kirk. So I don't think that's a good plan to do that. And there is many reasons why Notting Hill Carnival should remain. Many, many reasons indeed, including culture, including the income that it brings to London, including the fact that the vast majority of people go there because they enjoy having a day out. So I'm definitely for keeping Notting Hill Carnival. And I'm sorry to say, but a lot of the people who bring up Notting Hill Carnival do so because it's just too many black people together for their liking. But not mine. Right. And also a bit problematic, by the way, Will Coleshill, rather. And I think many of you know him. He's kind of works in alternative media. And he filmed a man who was talking about wanting to assassinate Keir Starmer. And I haven't seen today that they've caught him, but the police are now on the hunt for this man. Okay, problematic wording, of course, right? Absolutely problematic wording. Scotland Yard confirmed that officers are investigating the video, but said no arrests have yet been made. A spokesperson said, we're aware of a video circulating on social media from the Unite the Kingdom protest on Saturday, 13th September. Officers are investigating and inquiries are ongoing to identify a man. No arrests have been made so far. But it's, the reality is Saturday's march was a success, whether people like it or not. And I think that actually Tommy Robinson did excellently. And as many people know, there's lots I don't support about it. It was great to see that it wasn't the usual Zionist affair that takes place there. I didn't see one Israeli flag, but you might have done. And if so, send it to me. But yeah, generally it went really well. And obviously this whole kind of thing of tarring and feathering the people there. Well, when you actually look at some of the people who are involved in marching. Come on now. Some of these people have got walkers, a lot of pensioners here. Okay. I don't believe for a second that these are far right thugs. These are people exercising their right to protest, as indeed they should be allowed to. And honestly, can we really be spared all the hypocrisy from people like Kemi Badenoch? Kemi Badenoch, leader of the Conservative Party. Can she just do one? Right? These people, they keep going on. I'm so sick and tired after the last week, the Charlie Kirk thing, where you have all of these people, including people like Piers Morgan, coming out and saying, you know, you're responsible for this because of what you've been saying. Piers Morgan wanted us isolated from society, wanted us denied medical care if we didn't take the jab. Piers Morgan is part of any problem that exists. And as for Kemi Badenoch, she vows to defend free speech. Okay. And this is a woman who, so she's talking about, you know, what's going on to do with Starmer and everything. But this is a woman who tried to get a band who spoke out about Palestine cancelled from Glastonbury. So Kemi, sit down. It's either going to be free speech, even for people you don't like, or not at all. Too many hypocrites. Can't stand them. Get on my nerves. Absolutely get on my nerves. And I'm not having it, kids. I'm not having it. Before I bring in my first guest, I want to briefly talk about Mandelson. And again, thank you for your response to Friday's show, and in which I talked about Peter Mandelson, in which I talked about Charlie Kirk. And I see that Virginia Giuffre's brother appeared on the BBC yesterday, talking with Laura Kunsberg. And he said that Peter Mandelson should never have been given the position of UK ambassador to the United States. He said it speaks to how deep the corruption goes in our systems. And there's no suggestion that Peter Mandelson ever met Giuffre. And in fact, Virginia actually said that she was never asked to give him a massage, probably because he was gay, or is gay, rather. And Mandelson said that he suspected he didn't know about Epstein because he's a gay man. Well, that I don't buy that. I don't buy that. And Mandelson, as many now know, Lord Peter Mandelson, was sacked by Keir Starmer last week after the publication of emails showing that Mandelson had sent extremely supportive messages to Epstein, including about how they, you know, you're going to fight these charges, you're going to fight these convictions. So all that sort of stuff. And obviously all of this was around Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday book, in which people like Mandelson and Donald Trump and Bill Clinton had written lots of loving messages to their busy mate, because they all love Jeffrey Epstein, although not so much now. Obviously, there were entries, by the way, on that birthday thing, entries from 40 people divided into several categories such as friends, business, science, and Brooklyn. Interesting. There's also weird stuff like children's images, cartoons about children. It's unpleasant stuff, as you would expect for a paedophile. Very unpleasant stuff. But I think Mandelson is in for a bit of a rough ride this week. We shall see. How are you all in the comments? How are you all? Are you fighting yet? He is still a lord, Chris. MB said, wake up. Musk is controlled by Israel. He isn't being nice to us for no reason. MB, you got no argument from me here, mate. No argument at all. Jan, now that is true, right? And that is the Epstein case is slowly unraveling. But at the core of all this is the abuse of small children. Absolutely. Mandy was waffling again, says Trevor Trev. He certainly was. Oh, yes, indeed, he was. Mandy, Satan's right hand. Hamish, I'm not going to read that, but I hear you, mate. I hear you. And Mark, I'm gonna read that, right? The healthy expression of patriotism was a joy to behold. They've tried to shame us and suppress our identity for decades, and we're not taking it anymore. And you know what? Right, I've never been particularly patriotic, but that doesn't mean that I deny other people are, and it doesn't mean that I don't think other people have a right to be patriotic. Of course they do, and so I hear you, Mark. Absolutely. What else we got there? John said, I had a dream. Sonia introduced a mundane minute into the show where she reported on listeners' boring updates. One dude had a dash cam fitted that drained his battery. I see. Got you. Right, kids, should we bring in? I think she's here. Let's bring in our first guest. Yes, Weeman's dad. Yes, we did. We just didn't know the extent of it in some respects, like all of the detail about how Mandelson was encouraging him to fight his convictions and stuff. So that I didn't know that. Maybe you knew that. I didn't know that, but that was in the new revelations. But we knew their rate. We knew they were very, very close. Yes, indeed, we did. Rightism says racism. Please stop using the language of the enemy. Well, no, racism is a real thing. So I certainly I'm not interested in the language of the enemy or the ally. I'm just interested in the truth. And racism exists. And so if I use it judiciously. I don't just use it to throw it around. I don't use it in the same way as Keir Starmer uses far right. If it exists, it exists, and I'll call it out. And that's that. Right, let's move on. I am patriotic about the land where I am born. Denmark is such a nice place, says Randy. It's good to be. If that is what you want, it's fine. I am the last person on earth to tell you that that isn't what you should be about. But I just felt there was a lot of mis and disinformation about the march on Saturday, and I didn't think that was fair. So there you have it. Right, I'm going to bring in my first guest. Let's do it, kids. Hello there.
Morning, Sonia.
Good morning, Sophie. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Thanks for having me on today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for being here with us. You're, of course, from the Luke Mitchell campaign.
Yes.
And Luke was convicted in 2005. He was just 16 years old. He was convicted for the 2003 murder of Jodie Jones in Dalkeith, Scotland. He has always maintained his innocence. And of course, it's now over 20 years later. And the case, as you have all said to me, it remains one of Scotland's most controversial. And this month, he's up for a parole hearing, Sophie. What can you tell us about the campaign?
So we've got a lot of things coming up in the campaign just now. We've just started a big fundraiser. We have a new legal team. So we're using the Crowd Justice fundraising platform to fund the legal team. To get Luke all the way through the process, he's had a lot of appeals denied. So this could be a long process, like all the way to the Supreme Court, the Court of Human Rights. So it's going to take a lot of funding. We have an initial goal of 20,000 to reach, and we're trying to reach that in 30 days. So it's really imperative that we kind of hit that target to secure this legal funding and get things started.
Tell me about the movements of the campaign over the last, I don't know, year and a half.
So it's went a bit quiet over the last year and a half. We've kind of been working in the background, kind of speaking to the lawyers and things and seeing how we can actually fund this, get things moving. So that's been going on in the background. But what we'd usually do, we'd have protests and things. Luke has a lot of grassroots support. He's really lucky that way. Supporters are really good. So the campaign's kind of been quiet on social media and things, but this is us kind of just reaching out now, and we really need the public's help to do this.
And I think it's really important to note that this is in no way any disrespect to poor Jodie Jones. In fact, your campaign seeks justice for both Jodie Jones and Luke Mitchell, because as you say, the killer is still out there. Sophie, why did you get involved with the campaign?
I've always followed it in the media at the time, and there just something wasn't right about it. It was a pure witch hunt. The evidence wasn't matching up, and the sensationalist way that they went after Luke, it never sat right with me. But I never knew that actually there was no DNA. Everybody just kind of assumed that they must have had something, and it was only when the documentary in 2021 came out, and that made it mainstream, that there actually was no DNA. There was no concrete evidence. It was all circumstantial.
That was the Channel 5 documentary, I think you're talking. Yeah. Excellent.
Brilliant.
And I can be very critical about mainstream journalism, but that was an excellent piece of work. It was in 2 parts, wasn't it? And I think that was extremely eye-opening for many people. So talk to us a bit more about the demonization of Luke Mitchell, because I clearly remember the headlines. They were horrendous. They sought to portray him, of course, as a goth, somebody who was like almost satanic. To talk to us about that, the demonization of him.
Yeah, so within the very first 4 days of Jodie's body being discovered, she was absolutely horrifically murdered. I mean, just saying, like, we do campaign on Jodie's behalf as well. Our family do believe that Luke is guilty of this, so it's a difficult thing to talk about. But she was horrifically murdered, and within 4 days of her being discovered, the Daily Mail, based on what the police were telling the media at the time, they were going after Gothic culture. They were telling the police, they were telling the media that that was their line of inquiry, basically. And so they were all into this Gothic culture, and they were getting reports from a forensic psychiatrist at the state hospital. To the police they were getting reports from the forensic psychiatrist at the state hospital, telling them about what a suspect would likely be like if they were into all this Gothic culture. So it was very, very narrow mindset from the off. You're talking like 4 days after Jodie was discovered.
Yeah, it was all kind of like almost predetermined, wasn't it? That it's like we've got him. It fits the case. This is it. We know we've got it. So talk to me about DNA evidence, because as you say, there was no DNA evidence to Luke to the crime scene.
Yeah, there was no DNA evidence. Some people do. There was an article that came out that said there was DNA, but it wasn't. What that was a mixed sample on Jodie's bra, and it was a mixture of Jodie's blood and 2 male DNA samples, but it wasn't conclusive enough to say that it was Luke or it was another individual. All that they could use to say was that they can't rule Luke out, but it wasn't used to rule him in. But in 2014, there was a Scottish Criminal Case Review application, and they requested DNA from Jodie's trousers to be re-examined. The Crown refused to give them the original sample from where DNA was taken, but instead they gave the actual trousers to them and told them that they could swab around the area where the original sample was taken from. Do you know what I mean? Like when they take the sample, when they take a piece of clothing, they swab it all to see where maybe samples would be, and that would maybe show like semen or saliva, things like that, and then they cut out the piece of fabric for further testing.
But Police Scotland have been a problem all the way through, though, haven't they, Sophie? Because they destroyed evidence.
Yes. So in 2021, sorry, can I just follow up on just saying about the DNA there? So they took this further sample in 2014, and they discovered that it did show signs of semen, but they didn't follow it up. So the Scottish Criminal Case Review Commission, when asked, they done further testing, they found that there was semen on Jodie's trousers, and it went no further.
What are we to make from that, though? So it remained unidentified?
Yep.
So unidentified male DNA was found, but remains unaccounted for. That's what you're saying?
Yes, and then the Scottish Criminal Case Review Commission decided not to refer the case back to the appeal court, even after discovering that or following it up.
Yeah, the problem is, I talk a lot about this, Sophie, around here, and in terms of kind of miscarriages of justice, because sometimes once these organisations have decided that that's it, it's the unpacking of it which is problematic, which is why Luke, he spent more time in prison than he was alive, right? Because he was 16, he's been there over 20 years now. So talk to me about the police destroying. They destroyed at least 100 items of case material. That's significant. And especially because this is a case that's been ongoing. There have been issues. It's been contested for a very long time, but they destroyed this stuff when?
So it was literally 2 months after the 2021 documentary came out. That's when the discussions around destroying the evidence started. That took about a 9-month process, and then we realised that they had started the destruction. Luke's lawyer actually got in touch with them, and they have agreed. There's agreements now that they will destroy no further evidence. And thankfully, the forensics, as far as I'm aware, the forensic samples have not been destroyed, as far as I'm aware.
This is, I think, going to get very interesting. And one of the things that you say from the campaign is you are urging the public to learn the facts, because obviously we've been force-fed a glut of who mainstream and who the police believe
Yeah.
Luke is. And so what are the most obvious facts that you believe the public need to be aware of?
So the witness identification that puts Luke at the path in the company of Jodie before she was murdered was highly contested, highly contested. The descriptions don't match. And this witness, when asked in court if Luke Mitchell was the person you saw, she said that it wasn't. So it's like they based the conviction on a witness sighting that was highly contested, and the witness was saying, no, that's not the person I saw.
It's really awful how easy, in some respects, a conviction of this magnitude can take place. That could be any of us, couldn't it? I mean, if it takes one person saying, "Yeah, I saw him there," and then, "No, I didn't," but "Yeah, I saw him there," takes precedent. That's deeply problematic. How he was a young lad, right, when he was imprisoned. How does he cope with all this?
He is such a strong character. He is so resilient. He's one of the most resilient people I've ever met. We've got a letter actually coming out from Luke as part of our fundraising and campaign things. And he talks about having a target on his back as soon as he went to Pullman, the Young Offenders Institution, and then up to HMP Shots. He was just a constant target on his back, and he's the most resilient person to have survived all of that. Not just the conviction and becoming Scotland's most hated person at the time, but then to go to prison and like everybody wanted a piece of him, even like with a lock of his hair and things like that. And yeah, but what you were saying there, I was speaking to Luke's mum last night to see if she wanted anything for me to say, and it's what you just said there. It's like, this could be anybody. Until the justice system in Scotland is fixed, this could be anybody's son. What happened to the Mitchell family could happen to anybody.
We have to accept that, and this does happen. People don't like the idea that police are corrupt or judiciaries are corrupt, but police also have targets to meet, right? And especially a high profile case like Luke's, where they had the mainstream media on their back. I will never forget that interview, by the way, with Luke. I think it was a Sky reporter. Absolutely devastating stuff. He was a kid when they interviewed him, and that was appalling because it immediately, and this was a child that they were interviewing, and it immediately set in people's minds that there was something iffy about him. But so I think it is really problematic because it could be any of us there, but for the grace of God go I. Absolutely. Let me read you some of the comments that are coming in. DJ Darkside said, look at what they did to the Lucy Letby, and if she is innocent, then there's going to be war in the British legal system. The problem is, DJ Darkside, is that a character like Luke is so demonized that most British people don't care. They're like, well, he's a murderer. Let him swing. That's the attitude, isn't it, Sophie?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's such a bias. It's just like, oh, well he's evil, he's this and he's that, and it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, absolutely the attitude.
It's awful. An observer echoes what you said about the DNA found in 2014. Said it was ruled out as belonging to Luke. Once they ruled him out, they did not pursue the actual owner. And so again, it is that feeling that, look, we've got him. Let's not bother with this. It's all historic now. Who cares about him? You know, he was a Satanist. He was a goth. None of those things were true, by the way.
It ties into what you were saying earlier about like the corruption and things like that. So obviously they've done that in 2014, ignored it, and then the documentaries come out, mainstream media is highlighting his claims innocence, and then just after that they decide to destroy all the evidence. And also, you used to be able to read the appeals documents on the ScotGov website. They took all that down as well. It's
really,
yeah.
Marco says, time and time again, we hear of these miscarriages of justice, and it shows how effing corrupt this system can be for a quick result. And I do believe that there are targets to be had, Marco. As I say, you know, there was immense pressure. And the moment that the media gets involved and it becomes an international case, then there is pressure on the police to solve the case. And honestly, Luke seemed like a good bet for them, right, Sophie? He was Jodie's boyfriend.
Yeah. It was an easy target. That's what Luke said. They said it was easy to pin it on me. I was a local weirdo kind of thing. He wasn't a local weirdo. He was just he was a normal kid. He was into like he liked Eminem. He didn't even like metal music. He liked Korn and Eminem.
Goodness sake, he was 15, 16. I mean,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous that we're judging him based on, you know, what 15 and 16-year-olds like. Synchronized Soul, thank you for your super chat, says free Luke Mitchell and justice for Jodie Jones. And again, it's really important for us to remember that when there is a miscarriage of justice, which Sophie is in no doubt that this is, and I am also, when there is a miscarriage of justice, that means that potentially the murderer, providing they haven't already died, or murderers, if there's several involved, are still wandering around out there. So problematic all ways round. Sophie, what can you tell us about the parole hearing on the 23rd of September?
Yeah, so Luke's got the parole hearing on the 23rd of September. His lawyer's asking for immediate release. I don't want to get anybody's hopes up because that's very, very highly unlikely to happen, but that's like procedurally what's happening. It is hopeful that Luke will be getting progression soon, so back to national top end. That's where you get like escorted leaves and things like that. You get preparation for release. So best case scenario, that's what will happen.
You said you were talking to his mum last night,
Yeah.
Corinne, and I was looking at on the crowdfunder, which I've put all the links already in the description, people. I was looking at the image of the pair of them together. How heartbreaking. How does a mother survive such a thing when their child has been accused of being a murderer?
But she's so resilient as well. She is she's a strong woman, as Corinne. Survive is the right word. She's not living, she's surviving. She's been surviving for years. Yeah.
It's almost impossible to imagine what you would go through, how you would even be able to, presumably the thing that drives her on is the fact that she knows her son is innocent and she's continually fought for that to be recognized. So you're asking at the parole for immediate release of Luke. Now, part of the problem, I don't know if it works like this in Scotland, it certainly works like this in England, and that is unless somebody admits guilt, then they're not even eligible for parole. So how does it work in Scotland?
Scotland's a bit different. So Scotland bases things on risk assessment. Obviously, if you complete your courses, admit your guilt and complete your courses, then that goes some way to showing your remorse, and that adds weight to your risk assessment. But they can just release you like without completing these courses and things or admitting any guilt. It's all based on your risk and your propensity to commit a further crime kind of thing. But obviously Luke's innocent, so it's...
What a 20 years. I can't imagine how it will have shaped him, because obviously at 16, I mean, he's still growing and developing and forming opinions about the world and perspective. So his opinions and perspectives is essentially like he suffered some kind of arrested development at 16, because his normal development will have stopped to all intents and purposes, right?
Yeah, he's trying to think if this is not to offend Luke actually, but he is traumatized. He's so intelligent. He's such an intelligent person, but at the same time, you can see he's still that little 15-year-old boy. He's a strong, resilient man, and like we sit and have intelligent chats and things about the world, and he's right into politics and things like that. It's quite a worldly view, but at the same time, you can see that sort of cheeky 15-year-old boy coming through at the same time. Yeah.
Sophie, how do you respond to people who, so just say, for example, I'm talking to you and I say, this is absolutely ridiculous. They got the right guy. People like you are part of the problem, because these are the things that get said to me, by the way. But people like you are part of the problem. You're supporting a murderer. I know that there are journalists in Scotland, for example, who have banged on endlessly about this and see people like you as the problem. How do you respond to that?
Well, if you take it from right back to the investigation point for the police, when the police conduct an investigation and then it actually gets to court, the court expects that the police investigation was done to the highest standard. And when that's not done, it is extremely difficult to unpick that after a conviction happens. And that is where the issue is. People say, oh, he's had these appeals, he's had numerous appeals, they've all failed. If you actually look at the way the system works, it's procedural. When you have an appeal, they don't sit and go through all the court, everything that's happened in court and all the evidence and things. They just sit, they pick little things like and they don't take the whole thing into account, and it's very, very difficult to unpick what the investigation done.
Yeah. I mean, it is, because you're up against a system which has deemed him to be guilty and has punished him as such. And if the system then has to admit they got it wrong, what then? What then? Because not only does that knock public confidence, which honestly, public confidence, I think, is at an all-time low in terms of prisons all around the UK and the police service. And so I think that is part of the problem. Do you have a compensation system in Scotland? Because it's really poor for miscarriages of justice in England.
I think we do. I'm not sure like what the tariffs are or anything like that, but we definitely do. I think it would be similar to in England.
I want to read something that his mum said. From the very beginning, Luke was denied a fair chance, vilified by the media, mistreated by the system, and robbed of his youth. He has endured more than 2 decades of punishment for something he did not do. And in those years, Luke has suffered what most of us only see in our worst nightmares: the trauma of wrongful imprisonment, the crushing weight of isolation, fear, and the agony of being unheard and disbelieved while the world looked away. I think, obviously, away from the fact that the Jodie deserves absolute justice, so does Luke. Obviously, when because he's had his life robbed from him. So I'd be very interested to see what comes from this parole hearing. But we've seen so much, haven't we, recently? And Corinne refers to that. Andrew Malkinson as one example, accused of rape for 17 years, and the CCRC repeatedly refused to look at new evidence. Then there was Peter Sullivan, and these are we're repeatedly seeing miscarriages of justice. What do you think Luke's chances are?
I think that this is the right time. I mean, the average statistics show that it takes about 18 years for a miscarriage of justice to be righted. And I think the public has a massive role to play here. And thankfully, the Luke's got so much support. So if we can just keep learning the facts and spreading awareness between people, tell everybody that you can, if you like, start discussions about it, and because it is so important for our society. Like, if it can happen to Andrew Malkinson, if it can happen to Luke Mitchell, it can happen to anybody.
I'm going to read what Ian says. Ian says he's a victim of state corruption. I'm not going to ask you to comment on that. You're from the campaign and we don't want to embroil you in that. But I understand exactly what Ian's saying there. I really do. Even if they get compensation, it does not make up for the years they've lost. Reba, you're absolutely right. I mean, that is the truth, isn't it, Sophie? So, Sophie, final shot today. Just what do you want to say to people for them to be able to support Luke if they are financially able to?
Just please do. If you have any spare money, it doesn't matter if it's £1 will help. Every little bit helps. The public support is so important right now. We have 30 days to raise £20,000. We're on to day 26 now. We've reached 30% of our target within the first 2 days, which is amazing.
Well
but
done.
Campaigns tail off just now. We have, if you think you're interested in the case but you don't know enough to actually spend money right now, we have a new website. It's www.lukemitchellcampaign.com. So there's all the documentaries are on there. Everything is on there if you want to look into it and then donate. But just please Luke needs your support right now. Luke and his mum.
Indeed, we do. Thank you for being here with us today, Sophie. Very much appreciate it. This is Sophie from the Luke Mitchell campaign. And again, just to be absolutely clear, the Luke Mitchell campaign is interested in justice for both Luke Mitchell and Jodie Jones. Absolutely, unquestionably. Take good care of yourself, Sophie. Good luck in reaching the target.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you for being here today with us. Excellent stuff. Good work. It's very difficult having to do stuff like this. Let me just remove that from the... It's very difficult. You get called all manner of names once you start batting on behalf of a convicted murderer, as I'm sure they do. And there are a multitude of reasons why Sophie just wanted to have her voice heard. And on occasions like this, I'm more than happy to do it. What is going on in the UK? Alison asks, we in Canada do not have this level of miscarriage. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's an absolute farce. It's everywhere I'm looking. It's just terrible. And I do think that there is, especially when cases become so high profile, as we've just discussed, so three cases immediately spring to mind that I believe are miscarriages of justice, and that is Luke Mitchell, Jeremy Bamber, and Lucy Letby. All three high-profile media cases where their characters were assassinated even before trials took place. And that has a huge impact on people, a huge impact on people. And greetings, Curly Crew. Greetings to you. Been going on for decades. Is William following his father with halal now? Jam, what on earth is going on there? Don't know what you're talking about. Right. I saw, very interesting. I wonder if I can bring it up just for my next guest. I thought when I read this was Sean Ono Lennon, obviously John and Yoko Ono's son. And he'd put out on social media something, and I thought, my God, he's just like your father. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Let me see if I can find it. Image file. Let me just see if I can find what he said, because I was like, whoa, right. So, oh, that's not how I want it to be. Let me, well, that's not how I want it to be either. Right. Let me remove that and add it back to stage. There you go. It says someone is trying to radicalize us. And yes, they're trying to radicalize both sides against each other, and it's working. And there doesn't seem to be any way to stop it other than turning off your phone and your TV, if you still have one, and going outside to hang out with real flesh and blood people. They keep feeding us the most horrible versions of each other. The algorithms are. But who makes the algos? Who really benefits from us being at each other's throats? Well, obviously, you have people like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, all of these people, these kind of tech overlords who are, they are manipulating the system via the internet. We know that. Sean goes on to say, if you let the algos convince you the other side is evil, then you have been psyoped. Sean, you literally sound like your father. And Sean goes on to say, yes, there are evil people, but most people are not. We're letting ourselves be defined by the absolute worst examples at the extremes. I agree. That's what they keep showing us on every news channel and every social media feed. The worst of the worst. It's all designed to ferment us into anger and self-destruction. I don't know why exactly. Could be as simple as divide and conquer. It probably is. Don't swallow the psyop. And when I read that, I immediately thought of his father's comment. Do you remember that comment when he said, and I'm going to paraphrase him, but the world is run by insane people for insane agendas? And I mean, it's spot on. It absolutely is. It is absolutely clear and apparent to me that we are being manipulated, and division is absolutely evident. That is happening. And while that is happening, while people are turning on each other, we are ignoring the people who are pulling the strings. So big up yourself, Sean Ono Lennon. I really enjoyed reading that, and it made me just think, yeah, it's really, really good to see. And a lot of people are like, oh, John Lennon, he was part of the CIA and he was an informer and all of that. Those things I don't know. Those things I don't know. I'm pretty damn certain that his death wasn't as we were told, though. That much I'm pretty damn certain. And when he was alive, he said lots of incredible things for humanity as well. I mean, that's the other thing, is I think that we find ourselves in a dangerous place when people are absolutely determined that they know what is right. And I've seen that a lot over this last week to do with Charlie Kirk. I'm going to be talking about that shortly, and about some of the emails I've received where some people are absolutely convinced that they know exactly what happened. Okay. And I think that puts you in a dangerous position when you immediately assume that everything you say is right. I'm not like that. I like to keep my mind open while covering the facts and evidence as much as humanly possible. I try not to come down too heavily on one side or another until I have truly gathered my facts. And so when it comes to a situation like, for example, Luke or Lucy Letby, I waited until I'd gathered my facts together before I made a statement about where my position was. And not everybody's like that. And I'm not suggesting that everybody should be like me. I'm just saying that's how I work. And I do think that part of the problem is people are so determined that they are right. We can be wrong, and that's okay too. Some of my greatest lessons are learned from me being wrong. Yeah, fact. Right. I want to bring in my next guest. Here he is. You know him well. He's been with us before. Here he is, Wayne Leighton. How are you, Wayne?
I'm very well, Sonia. How are you?
Great to see you. I'm very good, thank you. I don't really, sometimes it's difficult to know how to describe you, but I called you an activist before and you were like, wait, what? But Wayne is many things. Campaigner, he's an activist, and now he's an author. So thank you for being here with us. Of course, you've been here before with us talking about council
Thank you for having me.
tax. Oh, it was a pleasure. But you've been here talking about council tax, about the illegality of bailiffs as one example. You were able to prove that in a court of law. So update us with what's going on in regards your court case and the High Court.
Well, at the moment, we're not getting any response. I sent a few emails asking for updates and they're just not replying. I've even had to make a complaint against the clerk because he's not replying and that complaint's been ignored. So at the moment, it's just, we're just on hold until we get a response.
And what is that case for? What is that claim for, rather?
So there's three angles. The first one is the lawfulness of enforcement agents coming into people's properties and taking their goods. The second one is the delegation of powers from local authorities to use enforcement agents. And the third one is the compatibility of the regulations with the European Convention of Human Rights. Now, the first one, with regards to entry, to cut that into a short summary, is they either need consent or they need a warrant, and they don't have either. I've done a video recently on that. I explained it more on my channel so people can go and watch that. It's quite in depth, so I won't go into that now. The second one is the delegation of powers. The council are double dipping. They're using multiple enforcement agents at once, and every time they send an enforcement agent, they get an extra £310. Well, the agency does. They get £75 for a letter and £235 for the visit, and they don't even have the authority to go to the premises anyway. The interesting thing about that is the government admitted that if it was simultaneous enforcement, it would be entirely unlawful. But they do it consecutively. But I can show that they're not doing it consecutively, they're doing it simultaneously, which means by their own defence, they admit the system's unlawful. So they're the two first claims. Now, the third one with the compatibility of the human rights, that's a lot more complex. But I'd like to show people what's going on in the background. Now, I don't know if you have time, Sonia. I sent you some documents. If not, I can share them here.
Oh, did you send them this morning? I don't.
Sorry, no, I'll share them here. Sorry to put you on.
Now, I haven't had chance to go through these. Are they perfectly okay to be sharing? I'm going to
100%. Yeah, these are from government departments themselves, and I've taken out email addresses. So
good. We haven't got any names or anything like that, right? Because I don't want to be done for defamation.
Well, no, because there's no defamation remarks being made here.
Well, that's not it, though, because what you haven't given me is an opportunity to go to these people and get their side. So obviously, I need to make sure that what you're sharing is something that doesn't require a response from somebody else.
Well, I'll just explain it rather than showing it. So, yeah, no problem. The government asked, the Ministry of Justice, they asked.
Frozen. He's talking about the Ministry of Justice. I know what he's talking about here because it was back in May when he was first due to be in court, and the Ministry of Justice were already creating a problem. And because if you remember, he came on the show, I think, just prior to the May court date. Hello, Wayne. Still frozen. Yeah, he came on the show just prior to the May court date. And then there was some sort of delay. And it turned out that the Ministry of Justice appeared to be blocking it, which obviously is problematic because the Ministry of Justice oversees courts. Okay. So the fact that he was already in a situation where he was having to face off with the Ministry of Justice. Poor Wayne, is he talking still? Hello, Wayne. Can you hear me? Oh, he's gone out. He'll hopefully come back in again. Over a decade ago. What are you going on? Technical problems, all that fluff and stuff. Frozen again. Wonder why. Mark, that sounds very conspiratorial, but who knows? Who knows? There is no justice in this country, says Sam. And I really have to re-listen to this show. So many dialogues with nice people on the chat. Oh, computer says no. Caught by the courts. Someone is screwing with his internet, says Stephen. And here he is. Let's try him again. Let's
Sorry
bring him
about
back.
that, Sonia.
No, don't worry. It's all absolutely fine, because what I was telling everybody, I was just doing the last time you were on, it was prior to the May court hearing, right? And you were due to go in, and it was the Ministry of Justice who were essentially blocking you, right?
Yeah. And but they've asked 6 other departments to come in on them. The Ministry of Housing, Communities, Local Government, the High Court Enforcement Officers, the Enforcement Conduct Board, Local Government Association, and all of them declined. Now then, one of them even was saying that they were worried about costs, and I'm a Lincoln person, and they've got there's 6 government departments. So I applied for the Ministry of Housing and Local Government to force them to come in as a defendant. They never replied. Then the Ministry of Justice tried stopping me from making them come as a defendant when they initially asked them to be a defendant, right? Then everything went silent. I'm not hearing anything from the court, not hearing anything from the Ministry of Housing and Local Government who have asked to be a defendant. Then in July, I get an email saying, oh, we're ready to respond now. I asked them, why is it taking 3 months for them to respond? And I've never heard anything from them again.
What,
so
since July?
At the moment, yeah. And I've not heard anything from the court since May.
Goodness me.
So at the moment, they're not even replying. So I can't really give much of an update, except I'm asking them for an update and they're not responding.
You're being
There's
blocked.
6 other government departments involved who are helping in the background, but there's just no progress at the moment.
Yeah, that's concerning. That's deeply concerning, because obviously, this is the High Court and you're dealing with the Ministry of Justice. This is the exact government organization that has the authority over the court system. So you're in a difficult situation there. What do you intend to do next regarding this?
Well, there's only so much that I can do, because I made applications, and them applications are just not being responded to. So it's because, like you say, the Ministry of Justice, the HMCTS, who was their sister agency, they appoint judges, so they have the administration monopoly there. So I can't really do anything. I've made a complaint. My complaint's not been addressed. So, but yeah, their defence, it can't succeed. So the only way they can get this out is in a technicality. But the problem with that is all the other government departments have accepted that this is of public interest and it should go to trial.
And that is the point. And can you just remind people, because there are some people in the chat who from overseas, they don't understand necessarily what is going on. Can you just remind people about your original case in which you were able to prove what you did?
Yeah, so I showed that enforcement agents are going to people's houses to take their goods without the authority to do so. And that was proven that they don't have the authority, and everything's carrying on like nothing ever happened. They're still acting in the same way. The local authorities are still doing the same, and the government are doing nothing about it. So the whole system is based on deceit.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. There are clear problems with the system, and the fact that you've challenged it as you say, a litigant in person, you did phenomenal. You really did, Wayne. And then when I started to look a bit more into your background, because you've obviously written your first book, I started to understand what makes Wayne Leighton Wayne Leighton. So let us talk a little bit about your book. How long has that been in the making?
Oh, 6 years I've been writing that, Sonia. So
I didn't realize that you had been in care as a child. That must have informed you rather a lot, Wayne.
Well, it changed me. I can never, those lessons I learned in care, they can never be replaced.
In what way?
You learn social lessons that you can't live at home with mum and dad, because you're in an environment. I'm back then. Sorry, did I go there?
You did momentarily. Don't worry, it's fine. I mean, it does happen on live streams anyway. So we will.
I'm sorry.
No, please don't apologize. You're such a sweetheart. It's absolutely fine. It happens. So I mean, because so you've got the book coming out, and it's obviously broken down into parts. On the Wrong Side of the Law is part 1. Immediately, do you feel that in some respects you've almost been primed to take on this challenge later on in life?
I would say so, yeah. Living in care when you're living with like dysfunctional children and they're causing making a lot of crimes, you're on the wrong side of the law. So I got that experience on the wrong side. So that really helped me. Yeah, that it opened my eyes in ways I could never. Living at home just with your mum and dad.
In what way? In what way? What did it tell you about the world being raised in care? Oh, he's having some.
It showed you the different lifestyles. Like some people have got they take life for granted. They expect certain behaviours. They expect certain treatment. They take it for granted. When you're in care, you realise that life's not so given to you. You've got to really have your wits about you. You've got to stand on your own 2 feet, and you've got to really. It teaches more streetwise. That's the best way I can describe it.
My sister was in care for a period of time as well. I understand, and that's why I tend not to rush to judge people who have been put through this situation, because it can happen. It's amazing how it can happen in some respects. You describe yourself as a deeply troubled little boy. How troubled were you, Wayne?
Well, I was very troubled. I had a lot of stuff going on in my life, but I think what I managed to do is harness my rebellious side into a positive direction, and that's with a few wake up calls, which I speak about in the book. That's what really helped change me.
Talk to me about some of the key moments in your life that have also shaped you, other than being in care.
Well, being persecuted by the police, that was a big step. The day of leaving care, that was a massive step. And I'd tell you one big stage in my life. So I started organising events. At that point, I'd never educated myself. So because I never bothered at school, I was always in a lot of trouble. And so I was trying to organise events like with very little education. So I was making a lot of mistakes because I was not educated really, but I had such passion to persist. And that's what changed me, not willing to give up, but not being bright enough to know what to do next. And that changed my character. That was a big part of the book, well, my life, you see. How, to answer your question, how I changed, that particular chapter in my life made me into the character I am.
How curious that you would describe yourself as not being bright enough. I think you're one of the brightest people certainly one of. You're extremely bright. The way you've put together a lot of this information in order to be able to challenge a huge system. But I think that's probably like a knock-on effect of having been in care, is it's probably impacted your sense of self at your core, who you really are.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think what changed me was self-education. I hadn't read a book up until the age of 25.
Wow.
And then when I did, I became addicted to education. So I started learning more. But up until that point, everything was just experience. I didn't study, didn't do anything like that. And then I realized the value of self-education. And that's what helped me make more sensible decisions.
That's interesting. You see, the fact that you talk about the value of self-education, I'm an absolute proponent of home education, because I see that there are so many problems in the system and what it's about. And I think the fact, because you are essentially, right, you're taking on Goliath, right? That's what you've been doing. And it's almost like you were not put through the system in the ordinary way, so you have no problem challenging it. I like that, because I always try and find some kind of silver lining, even to the darkest of clouds, right? And being in care is no joke. It can impact you terribly, especially if you're abused, especially if you're subject to all manner of different things. And also because you don't have that kind of one-to-one relationship with an adult or a carer, so that can impact you as well. But it definitely seems to me that you've managed to gain some incredible insights from such a dark period. So as the book progresses, you talk about how you evolved. How did you evolve, Wayne?
Well, I went from, being on the wrong, like I say, on the wrong side with the wrong influences. And then, like I just explained, I became passionate, and that put me onto the right path. And then the third stage is when, on the right side of the law, when I seen, by helping other people, I started realizing what was going on. And through helping others, I helped myself gain more knowledge and so it was a win-win relationship. But that, by helping others, it woke me up to realizing what sort of country we're living in, with all this oppression and this tyranny. You don't realize it at first because it's a clever little sophisticated system, but it's like changed me again. So the last part of the book is challenging the system.
Yeah, being on the right side of the law, as you call it, which I think it's a brilliant way to go about it, actually. So what do you mean by being on the right side of the law? Because I just want to preface it with this, and that is, even if 1 million people think something's right, if it's wrong, right? Is that kind of where you are?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the stuff that I talk about, it's unlawful by their own standards. So you can see how, like, there's a system in place to keep suppression, and then anybody who tries tampers with that will try to discredit or just shut down. And it's really bad. Like I always say, I'll never be shocked at anything I see now, but some things I still see, it still shocks me. It's a really dark system.
Let me read you this. I think this is so interesting. And that is, sorry, the comment's going. I'm sorry. I wanted to read you something that has just disappeared. They're talking about critical thinking in the comments, which I think is so important. And again, with your unconventional start, shall we say, it almost forces you to be a critical thinker, doesn't it? Because things aren't panning out the way that we're told they're supposed to. We are told that we should be in a world where there's mummy, daddy, and baby bear, and there's a white picket fence, and everything's lovely, and we wake up and there's breakfast in the morning, and you're not freezing, right? We're told that's the kind of world. But the moment that you're born into a world that isn't like that, which I wasn't, I was born into what would have been considered dysfunctional family, even though wonderful family, but nonetheless quite dysfunctional in many respects, and most of it to do with poverty. And then I think that almost gives you a head start in being a critical thinker, because you've immediately been plunged into a system that isn't working in your favor.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And this is one of the what you've just said there is one of the reasons why I've done a transcript version of my book, because a lot of the stuff I'm saying, it's a lot of big claims, and people who don't know about the system or have not studied it will be like, that's a bit too far stretched. Yeah. And not only will I get people doubting, but people in high powers who I'm exposing will try and make claims against me. But the transcripts is all evidence-based. So everything I'm saying is backed up. So any doubters can read that, and anybody who wants to make a claim against me, well, then obviously I can defend it with the truth in the transcripts.
I think it's really important that you've written this, not least because there were things you obviously needed to say. You wanted to express yourself. You want to show who you are and where you're coming from, because from the times that you've been on, I've had a lot of interest about you, and people have been like, where's he come from then? How does he know all this? Well, you now know it's self-taught.
Yeah.
It's self-taught, because the system couldn't have taught you this way. The system doesn't teach you how to challenge the system.
No.
Okay. No, it definitely doesn't. So when is this going to be available?
Well, it's out now. You can pre-order it now. It's published in February 2027, because to really do a book this big, you need about a year to promote it, but I wanted a bit longer. So I'm going to release it in February 2027. You can order it now. You can order the normal edition, the ebook, or the transcripts, or the VIP, which is I'm going to do a seminar to talk all about what I did and how I did it, so people can take it away and they can use it to benefit their own challenges.
I think you're a fantastic role model. Please send me all the links that you need to pertaining to that, so I can put them in the description Wayne, before
Thank
you
you,
leave
Wayne.
us, obviously you've been blocked by the High Court and you will continue to pursue them. And as soon as you get some sort of response, please let me know, because our viewers always want to be updated. But it seems very much like the Ministry of Justice have got involved and decided that you're a problem. And so they're going to give you the runaround. Is that your take home from it?
Yes, definitely. And I think it's just a certain few selected judges who have made a recusal application against now. And that's been months and they've not decided it.
Oh, I think
so
he's
once
frozen.
we get the recusal application out of the way, we can hopefully get a date for a hearing. Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sweetheart.
So yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just saying, once I get the recusal application out of the way, we can hopefully get a date, and then I can update people when the actual final hearing is, because this is going to change the rights of everybody's property rights, because they're trying to claim that they have entry rights that don't exist. Simple as that, yeah.
Simple as that, says Wayne Leighton. It's lovely to see you again, Wayne. And I think this is new, isn't it? It suits you anyway. The beard and moustache.
Thank you.
Yeah, suits you very much so for the next stage of your life. And I wish you great success with that as ever. This is the wonderful Wayne Leighton, somebody that I completely. And you know, Wayne, it's really funny because I really supported what you were doing, but now I know more about your background. I support you even more, mate. Absolutely, more power to your elbow. I love seeing people rise up. I love it, especially when they've been handed a hand at the start, which isn't always so easy. But you know what? I think me and you were kind of cut from the same cloth, and that is we took those things and we've used them in a way that hopefully will benefit many. So more power to your elbow, Wayne. And yes, please send me those links and I will put them in the description. Everybody, this is Wayne Leighton. Take good care of yourself, Wayne. And has he frozen? I think he's frozen. There he goes. There he goes. Bye, Wayne. Bless him. It happens, peeps. It happens. Don't worry, says Charles. Oh, there he is. He just come back to say goodbye.
Yeah, sorry about it. It's my signal. I'm sorry. Thank you for having me, Sonia.
Pleasure, darling. Take good care of yourself. Keep us updated. Lovely to see him. Absolutely lovely to see him. What a star. He's a star. And the more I realized what kind of hardship he had faced at the start, I was like, okay, now I get it. I really, really get his fight now. And Charles says, don't worry about the freeze broadcast. It happens in live shows often. It does indeed. And hello to New Zealand. Who's in New Zealand? Hi, Sonia. Hi, all from New Zealand. Watu Murphy. Hello, Watu. How are you? And Shug said, our life could have been like that before it was hijacked. Understood. Aurora says, the education system has been infiltrated. Children are being programmed, not educated. No trivium grammar, rhetoric, or geometry. I hear you. I hear you. But plenty of stuff about how to play sexual games with dice, though, Aurora. So there is that, obviously. Right. What should we be looking at, kids? I think we're going to start looking at Charlie Kirk. What's been happening over the weekend? Okay. I think that's where we're going to go to next. So let me start to bring in some information and pertaining to what I need. Of course, it was, and if you notice, I haven't monetized Friday's show or indeed today's show, and probably not for the foreseeable, because the moment I want to play videos, you can't really do that. And I think it's more important to play videos at this stage. So this, of course, goes back to this.
That's a lot of people, you tell you what.
That was Charlie Kirk, American influencer, big MAGA influencer, last Wednesday in Utah at a college/university event. And it was there that we were told that he was shot and killed in cold blood by a single individual who has now been found. And where to start? Let me go. Right. So first of all, just to say, I really do appreciate all your messages regarding anything that I choose to do. And wherever you send them, wherever you post them, thank you. Very much appreciated. And thank you to all of the wonderful comments in the chat, how supportive it is. That is really heartening. Karen tells me that she was struggling on Friday to find me. She said that she couldn't watch Wake Ups, tried to catch up with it on Friday afternoon, went to my history and your latest video was missing. I then put your name at the top of the YouTube search, still not this latest video. I had to keep searching and finally found you after half an hour of searching. Who has patience for that? Karen, God love you. She said, I think the algorithm tried to block you. Thank you for this very informative video, Sonia. Your honesty and integrity is why I believe in all you say. Probably best not to believe in all I say, Karen, but love you all the same. And I really appreciate all your wonderful words. And the only reason I say probably best not to believe in everything I say is because we're all open to making mistakes. But I really do appreciate your kind words and for going to such Herculean efforts to watch Wake Up. And I also want to read what Drew had to say. Drew from Derby, who wrote to me saying, Dear Sonia, regular Wake Up viewer here. I just wanted to say how much I appreciated your approach to the death of Charlie Kirk. It's still early days in us discovering what really happened. And I feel you handled the whole thing excellently. This is why I watch Wake Up, because you put facts and evidence above suspicion and you wait until you call. I do. Thank you, Drew from Derby. So I also made it absolutely clear that I was open to the input of others on this. And thank you to those who have responded to this request. I am still following up some of what I have been told. So for those who haven't seen Friday's show, it is available on YouTube, on Rumble, on Spotify, and on X. And as I said, I looked at the murder of commentator Charlie Kirk just 2 days after the event. And according to the information, so this is important. I looked at it according to the information that was publicly available. Okay. And that has been fed to us by an assortment of people and organizations, including eyewitnesses to the event. That also includes Donald Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu, police officers, and legacy media. So that's how I looked at it according to that. What was the public output according to that? And of course, I, looked to see if there was anything truly nefarious going on behind the scenes. Anyway, after Friday's show, a series of events followed. And to say I became increasingly weirded out by these things would be a gross understatement. I'm going to start with Donald Trump on Fox News. This is Donald Trump on Fox News. And if any of these start not to play, then I will just re-upload them so that they do. Let me just find that. Monday video. And so Donald Trump was live on, do you know when things just disappear? Well, how does that happen? Because I sure as heck want to play it. And if not, then I'm going to have to explain it to you. I wonder if it's gone into another file. So sorry about this, kids. I think I'm going to have to explain it to you, but I do have the other videos, which is actually more important than that. But Donald Trump did this really weird thing. Okay. He said on air that his Fox News friend is going to be disappointed. So he made this bizarre comment about Fox News host Sean Hannity. And what he said, so he was there, President Trump live on Fox and Friends. And it was so incredibly weird because he was talking as if he was announcing a new TV program or some money off one of his deals. And he was really flippant and really lie. And he was like, I'm going to give you an exclusive now. And Sean's going to be disappointed that he was not here for it because Sean Hannity is one of his friends. And it was so bizarre because what he was actually announcing was that according to him, and subject to, he's like, we have to be really careful and everything, don't want to get you in any legal trouble or anything, but we're pretty certain about this. And what he was announcing was that they had caught the alleged shooter of Charlie Kirk. But the way he announced it was like, this is an exclusive. It was weird and it weirded me out. The whole vibration of him was odd. They say you won't necessarily remember what a person says, but you will remember how they made you feel. Well, President Trump made me feel something is very off with this story. That's what he did straight off the bat. And so I was alarmed by that because now Trump can be inappropriate at the best of times. Okay, we know that about him. He can. I mean, he simply can be incredibly inappropriate. And he says weird things and does weird things. But bear in mind, this was somebody that we have been repeatedly told since what happened to Charlie Kirk, that Trump was like a father to him. Well, Trump was out enjoying himself on Saturday, and there were images to show that. And the way he behaved on Fox News on Friday, so only 2 days after what we've been told is an assassination, the way he behaved was not that of a father who's just lost their son. So it was weird. It alerted me straight away that something is very off here, and I'm uncomfortable with it. Then what happened was mainstream media then ran with that story. Newspapers ran with the story that Trump had said they got him. And then there was the weird press conference. The press conference was between like the local authority in Utah and Kash Patel from the FBI. And this was so weird. Now, this I've got in front of me, and I'm going to play it for you. Okay. This is Governor Cox. He opened the press conference.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident. This information was relayed to the Utah County Sheriff's Office and scene investigators at Utah Valley University. This information was also conveyed to the FBI. Investigators reviewed additional video footage from UVU surveillance and identified Robinson arriving on UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 a.m. on September 10th.
So first thing I will say is, so have we completely done away with due diligence then? Because to announce we got him is an outrageous statement from lawmakers and at a law press conference. Absolutely outrageous. And by the way he went on to describe about 22-year-old Tyler Robinson was the most complete sewing up of a crime I think I've ever heard. And I've been an investigative journalist for quite a long time. It was very complete. And so that was interesting. Then, of course, they brought on Kash Patel. Kash Patel is the director of the FBI. This is what he had to say.
Governor, this is what happens when you let good cops be cops. The FBI and our partners are proud to stand here today together to bring justice to the family of Charlie Kirk and honor his memory. I want to express my deep gratitude to President Trump, the Vice President, and the entire White House who have been so incredibly supportive with both resources and just personally to the FBI as a team. They had our backs the entire way, and I just want to express my gratitude for giving us the resources we need to operate in this space to bring this sort of justice at this sort of speed. In 33 hours, we have made historic progress for Charlie. Governor Cox, our partnership has been absolutely incredible these last few days. Our partnership will endure. Your state and local partners, your sheriffs, your DPS community has been unbelievably impressive in the hardest of times.
So let me just get this straight, right? So now the director of the FBI is also stating that this is the guilty man. So they've done away with due diligence. Will there not be a trial? Because according to information today, Tyler Robinson is refusing to communicate with them. Okay, so is Trump running a kangaroo court now? Because it certainly looked like it from that. And of course, I don't think anybody who watches Wake Up will have missed the whole 33 hours thing. Okay, and Kash Patel opens it with, this is what happens when you let cops do their job. So he's making a political statement there because he was subject to a lot of criticism and he gave cops certain freedoms to be able to do what they wanted. And it's very, very weird because Kash Patel spends a significant chunk of his time at a press conference. And bear in mind, it's a press conference about a man who's supposed to be close to them who ended up with a bullet in his throat. So we were told. Okay, so this is a press conference about that. But Kash Patel uses it to score endless points. And by the way, why does Kash Patel always look like he's held hostage? Blink twice if you need rescuing, Kash. We're here. Right. And it was just really weird. And even when at one stage, when they were talking about the hours in which they'd apparently caught Tyler Robinson, the man who's done it, according to them, we got him. He corrected it because he was like, it wasn't even 36 hours. It was 33 hours. It's a magic number for some. Many people will, of course, think about Freemasonry. And I mean, I think the amount of times, because numerology is interesting as well, of course, because when you put 3 and 3 together, it makes 6, which is a wholeness, which is a completion. There's all of that kind of stuff going on, but it also pertains very much to Freemasonry. And the way he kept repeating it was problematic. Now, all of these things, there's much more I want to talk about here. All of these things in isolation are just, these are a bunch of weirdos. These are a bunch of weirdos who are more interested in like social media likes, shares and subscribes. That includes President Trump, who is extremely impacted by that sort of thing. And maybe what's lost in translation is they're American, I'm British, and that's not how I would behave. But I know loads of Americans who wouldn't be talking like that at a press conference, apparently, where they found the killer of a man who was shot in front of all of us. Right. So all of that is so weird. And he also banged on about it being historic. Like Kash Patel was all about essentially, aren't I doing a great job? Aren't the cops who did this doing a great job? Very inappropriate. And of course, Governor Cox, right from the bat, very inappropriate. We got him is an outrageous statement to make. And they said that the reason that they did this press conference, and it went on forever, like half an hour, it was insane. They said it's about transparency. They're committed to transparency. I'm sorry, all of it felt like a made-for-TV script. It really did. As I say, it was the most perfect tying up of loose ends of a crime I've heard, probably ever. They had an answer for everything, which, given that Tyler Robinson, who had once gone to the university and now is refusing to communicate with them, I don't know how they have an answer for everything, but they think they do. And their story is that Tyler Robinson, who had once gone to the university, had told his family over dinner a few days before how he hated Charlie Kirk, how he confessed to his father what he did. And his father was also able to go to a pastor who was also involved in law enforcement and set the wheels in motion. So all of that, I'm sorry. President Trump, no, I'm not sorry. I'm not apologizing. President Trump on Fox, weird. Is inappropriate, but still weird. The FBI local cops press conference, weird. Very, very weird indeed, and deeply inappropriate. But I haven't yet got to Charlie Kirk's wife. And it's very difficult here, obviously, because I want to be as open-hearted and open-minded as possible, allow for the fact that things are not sitting well with me, things are uncomfortable, that I'm being asked to accept, they are uncomfortable to me. And I have to say that the actions of Erica Kirk are deeply uncomfortable to me, deeply uncomfortable. First of all, I was actually, I mean, this isn't the order it came in, but this adds to it. But she posted on social media images, videos of her at Charlie's coffin. And this is posed. Who thinks to film something like this? And I know it's posed because she is holding her hands in very particular ways. So you can see her lovely manicure. And it is all posed. It is all staged. I find that abhorrent. Because if that's a new trend that we're now going to be seeing on social media, people next to the coffin of their dead loved ones, so we are being told, then I don't want it, thank you. That I found awful. But the problem is I'd already heard her speak. And I had a lot of problems. She did a video. And her scripted message, which I'm going to play some of it, and you will hear what I'm talking about. Her scripted message was, first of all, reminding me of Kash Patel. It was all about thanking all and sundry, all the people involved. And bear in mind what they're all talking about. She's talking about the death of her husband, the murder of her husband, so we're told, and so is Trump, and so is Kash Patel. And yet they're all saying really weird stuff. And first of all, I have to say this as a disclaimer, and that is obviously people behave differently to grief, okay? But some of let me just bring that back in, but some of her actions and reactions in the video were deeply, deeply discomforting to me. And first of all, given that this was 2 days after she apparently had become a widow after her husband had been assassinated, she smiles a lot. I'm going to play you some of the video. This is when she first comes in. Oh, hold on, bear with me. Let me get that off the stage. Sorry about that. Here we go.
Jesus. Fill this room. Good evening. My name is Erica Kirk. Charlie Kirk is my husband. I first want to thank the local, state, and federal law enforcement who worked tirelessly to capture my husband's assassin so that he can be brought to justice. I want to thank the first responders who struggled heroically to save Charles's life, and the police who acted bravely to make sure that there were no other victims on that terrible afternoon. I want to thank the officers who have protected our Turning Point USA family these past 2 days. And I want to thank the Turning Point USA board, the COO, Justin Strife, and my husband's chief of staff, the amazing Mikey McCoy, for all their work in these terrible days to be the stability for our family and for the wider Turning Point USA family as well. My heart is with every one of my husband's employees who lost a friend and a mentor. I want to thank the staffers of his amazing Charlie Kirk show, who helped him broadcast from this studio, this chair. Every day he loved it. He loved what he did. I want to thank the millions of people who have shown their love for Charlie here in Phoenix, across America, and worldwide. I want to thank my husband's dear friend, Vice President Vance, and his phenomenal wife, Usha, for their love and support. You guys honored my husband so well bringing him home. You both are tremendous. I want to thank President Trump and his incredible family for the same.
Now, I don't know about you, but I could have confused that for a speech for somebody who's accepting an Academy Award, because there's a lot of thanks there. And it's just odd. The smiles. Now, again, I did not know much about Charlie Kirk. I didn't really follow him because he didn't interest me. I mean, I knew enough about him, who he was, what he represented. He didn't interest me. And I saw him as yet another MAGA voice. I had no knowledge of his wife. And so I have to allow for the fact that if it's true, if the story is true as presented, then grief makes people react in very, very, very weird ways. And Erica Kirk is very, very, very weird. Deeply uncomfortable behavior from her. Really weird stuff. Now, it's moments like this, God bless him, that I really miss Peter Hyatt. I really miss statement analyst Peter Hyatt, who left us in March of this year, because I'm telling you, I'm pretty damn certain that Peter would have torn in to Erica Kirk's speech. She's half talking, occasionally whispering for effect. She managed to laugh about numerous things, including his love of sport and his team playing on Saturday. And it was literally 2 days after her husband was apparently assassinated. And all I would say of his wife is her power of recovery in the face of such utter devastation is interesting, is curious. And she talked about their faith. And some people, I mean, the comments, so it's been watched millions of times, and the comments are almost, I mean, so many comments about faith in Jesus. Now, I don't know about that because I don't have, that's not where I'm coming from. But is it possible that when people have that much faith in Jesus, that something as heinous as an assassination becomes like, oh, it's a calling to the Lord? Because she said 2 days ago, my husband went to see the face of his Savior and his God. And honestly, the whole thing was theatrical. She was theatrical. And going back to what I said, and that is, you can forget what people say, but not how they made you feel. And she made me feel deeply, deeply uncomfortable. And she talked about the evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done. They killed him because of his patriotism and his faith in God. And then she went on to say, if you thought his mission was powerful before, you have no idea what you have just unleashed across the world. The cries of this widow will echo around this world like a battle cry. The movement my husband built will not die. I refuse to let that happen. No one will ever forget my husband's name. She said it's now his name and what he stood for is now going to be stronger, bolder, and louder. The tour that was already planned for him, she said that's going ahead. So and she said she's going to get out there herself. And so that's Erica Kirk and Ben Shapiro, who he did the last interview with, who are both committed apparently to continuing Charlie Kirk's work. Talk about stepping into a dead man's shoes. It's weird. It's like putting on his skin. People, when I die, I don't want anyone to carry on my work. Do your own sodding work. Do you know what I'm saying? Why are these people saying I must carry on his work? No, do your own work. And so that Instagram video and imagery, I'm sorry, of her weeping over an open casket together with that video freaked me out. And as I say, if posing at the side of your dead loved one is a trend, I reject it. Absolutely, I do. And again, perfectly manicured nails, artfully displayed. All of this imagery here in front of you was planned, like you would a professional photo shoot. I have wept over several loved ones in their coffins. Not for a second did we think about taking pictures or videos. It's weird. Who films moments like this? Who posts it on social media? And I have to say, Erica Kirk's response reminded me of two people. One of them, you may or may not know them. One is actually Kim Ledbetter, who's leading the charge for the assisted dying campaign, and how she reacted in the hours after we were told that her sister Jo Cox, who was an MP, was assassinated. She was all, smiles and weird stuff. And if something feels wrong to your gut, it's probably wrong. Okay, it's probably wrong. But the other person that Erica Kirk reminded me of was, I think his name was Robbie Savage. Do you remember him? Around Hook, what was it called? The school. And Robbie Savage was if I remember correctly, was the father of one of the children that we were told was slain. And there was this infamous video of him where he's joking with law enforcement. And then when he steps up to the mic for the press conference, he suddenly is all sad and everything. This is acting. This is theatrics. I'm disturbed by it. I'm extremely disturbed by Erica Kirk. And I know there will be people who say, oh, she's a widow. What is wrong with you? Well, all I'm doing is I'm reacting as honestly and as truthfully as I possibly can. And you may not agree with it. But all I know is that every single incident that I have seen since Friday, including the so-called capture of Tyler Robinson and the so complete story that accompanies it, every single incident from Trump on Fox News, from that weird press conference to Erica Kirk and, the so-called capturing of Charlie Kirk's assassin is problematic to me, which brings me to what some people have said to me. People insist it's a hoax. They absolutely categorically do. And it's interesting. Last night, I was kind of like breaking down who had written to me about what. And there's 3 people who wrote to me that it was a hoax. 10 people wrote to me that it was Israel involved. 18 wrote that, this is in various places, emails, inboxes. 18 wrote that it was Trump. So there's a difference of opinion. Some people believe that it absolutely happened, but he was taken out because of his new questioning of Israel, given that Charlie Kirk was a man like many others who went and kissed the wall, right? Absolutely. He was an avowed, he was a staunch Zionist. And then in later periods, he was asking questions about Israel. So I think that the argument about Israel is actually persuasive. But let me go back to the hoax idea. What if it is? What if it is? I watched and read thoughts from those who believe, as I say, the whole thing is a giant hoax. And Charlie Kirk, the actor, as they see him, is not dead, but has simply ceased to exist. They say he was a creation. that his co-founded youth organization, Turning Point USA, was a psyop. They say it was no coincidence that what happened was scheduled on the first day of the return, and the blood we saw was the fake stuff that is used in movies, and it was likely to have been hidden under his t-shirt ready to explode. And several people sent me videos, and that happens in movies. Yes, it does. And what people are saying to me, excuse me, are extremely big statements. But if true, it wouldn't be the first time a massive lie was inflicted on humanity. 9/11 remains a massive lie, whether the mass majority accept it or not. Kirk was, we were told, killed a day before the 24th anniversary of 9/11. And as a journalist, I work with as much fact and evidence as I possibly can. But then there's that other thing that you can't account for. And that is the stuff in between that makes no damn sense. And all the stuff I witnessed over the weekend makes no damn sense, even for people grieving. And by the way, there was an element of Erica Kirk that also reminded me of Kate McCann. And you all know what I think about Kate McCann's statements. So, and I think that oftentimes when people are kind of coming from a similar position, they can sound alike. They can sound alike. And so on Friday, and as today, actually, I have no plans to rush to decide anything. I think it's problematic. And, but I think following the given narrative as it stands is problematic, because it's clearly things aren't adding up, right? And I don't follow official narratives at the best of times. That's not what I do. And it's not what my viewers expect from me. They expect me to be as careful as possible and not to be too hasty to reach a conclusion. And it's my experience that people who do rush to make up their mind about something, oftentimes it's about confirmation bias. So they're looking for things that will just confirm what they already feel. I don't. I look for whatever evidence I can, whichever way it blows. And people talking about the event, such as those events over the weekend, is potentially evidence, albeit circumstantial. But every one of those were weird. They were just weird. And I'm left with this really uncomfortable feeling about it all over again. Let's see what you're saying in the chat. Let me, comments. Where did the comments just go? And see how we live and said, well, everyone was complaining that we were running out of conspiracies. What's this? I think it's is it home yet said, I think it's a bit harsh to criticize her behavior. And I accept that. But my job is in journalism, and my job is to be as dispassionate as possible when I am observing situations. And I think most people who step back from the emotion of the situation, because it's a highly emotive story. This is a young father and a young husband, 2 children have been left behind, and a young wife. It's a highly emotive story, but it also, Charlie Kirk fed absolutely into the issue of division. There's no doubt about it. He was very much part of, polarizing what he said, what he stood for. Okay. And so I think it is questionable, but I take your point. But I also, Sean asked, how is he going to live if it was fake, nutty idea. And of course, those are questions that you then have to ask. People can also be given new identities. Suspend anything and go along with the people who are telling me it's a hoax. And one of those people was incredibly aggressive, actually, and like practically screaming in the message that it was a hoax, and how dare I even question that it wasn't. Like, insane stuff. That's insane stuff, right? Everything should be open to question. And I think it is fair enough to question hoaxes, because I'll tell you what, I don't believe for a second that Trump was shot. That didn't look real at all to me. And yet lots of people believe it, and probably helped him get back in for another term. And I could be wrong about that. It could be absolutely real and legitimate, but my sense tells me it wasn't. So there you go. And I think that as a journalist, I should be able to criticize even somebody who is supposedly presented to us in a highly emotive way. That is what viewers expect from me. Viewers do not expect from me to just run along wholesale with official narratives. That's problematic. My sense at this stage is that he was taken out, but not for the reasons that we've been told. That's my sense at this stage. But again, I could be so very, very, very wrong. Very wrong. His grandmother doesn't think he's done it because she doesn't understand it. She says he comes from a Trump household, which could be possible because you can obviously go opposite to what your grandmother thinks. And also, by the way, I don't like what's happening is that we are being told repeatedly about this whole free speech thing. And I don't like the threats of action for people expressing themselves that are coming from the American administration. You've got Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, who is now saying that he will track and take action to fire military personnel and Department of War civilians who are celebrating or mocking the assassination of Charlie Kirk. That's outrageous. They were talking last week about barring people coming from overseas who are questioning it. People should be allowed to say what they want. Isn't that what these people stand for? Aren't they supposed to be about free speech? No, of course not. Goes back to, I think it was, did I mention Piers Morgan earlier in the show where he's now coming out? Yeah, where he's coming out as this great free speech advocate. You wanted people ostracized from society for not bowing to your unresearched ideas. So I think there is a lot of hypocrisy taking place at this moment in time. The official story does not sit well with me at all. Whether I believe it's a hoax is a whole other story. It's not impossible. It is not actually impossible. Or everything was there to make it possible. And people can be given new identities. If he was truly a creation, which is what the hoaxers say he was a creation, he'll just disappear now and have his life elsewhere. I will keep looking at this and I will keep telling you when things feel off, whether that feels mean to you or not. I am not here to make you feel comfortable. I'm here to share with you as many truths as humanly possible. And that may also be from perspectives that you don't agree with. And that's where I'm coming from, because I think that sometimes in order to be able to get to the truth, we need to examine as many areas as possible. I think where sometimes some of these theories go wrong is they go too far. They go right through the Overton window, whereas I like to take people up to the Overton window so they're still with me rather than lose them. But I think this is a story that's going to continue on. And of course, we're going to get the funeral. That's going to be, I mean, all of it's very ritualistic. I mean, as I said on Friday's show, Wednesday morning, it was only a certain people in the world who knew who Charlie Kirk was. And now this man is huge, bigger in death than he was in life. But not to worry, because Ben Shapiro said he's going to pick up his blooded microphone and continue the work for him. That must be comforting. Right. I'm going to move on from that. Again, continue to send me your thoughts and I will examine them as fairly as I humanly can. Big up to Daddy Dragon. I hear he's had a bit of a win. And Daddy Dragon's been on with us recently. He was fighting against the Royal Mail, Runcorn and Helsby office. And what they're now saying, what he was saying before when he came on, was how when he'd stood for election, his local Royal Mail, Runcorn and Helsby office were not delivering leaflets. And that's been shown now. Royal Mail knowingly interfered with an election campaign. That's illegal. At Runcorn and Helsby, 46,400 leaflets not delivered. That is political interference. And no doubt more on that soon. Let me just reflect on something I said last week. And I made a kind of comment about how the Reform music sounded a bit like the Glitter Band. And a couple of you wrote in about it. And one of them said, Mick Stammer said, music for Reform is not the Glitter Band. It is Sue Guy with a song called San Pedro. And I checked it and he was right. And the Glitter Band continued after the disgrace of Gary Glitter quite successfully at 70s events, condemning him for what he did. I hope you clear this up, Sonia. Mick, I did, because I'm prepared to do that. I'm happy to do that. If I get something wrong, then I'm happy to address it. Not an issue. Okay. And so there you go. And also big shout to my friend Sam. Sam sent me loads of stuff about Birmingham Council. I'm still wading through it. Going to have to revisit that next week. Has many parts to it, but I want you to know that I love you. And let's have a look at some viewer emails. Lighten the load, shall we? Matthew said, are we switching seasons too quickly? Have you noticed the difference, people? So here's what Matthew said. We seem to have gone from high summer straight to autumn. Where are all the grasshoppers, crickets? Richmond Park used to hum with them throughout August. This year, hardly any. Also, this is the first ever year I haven't got hay fever in late July, early August. Not sure which pollen it was, but it's definitely lacking this year. And that's from Matthew. Anybody else notice that? The difference, like the speed in which we're going from season to season. Anybody else notice that? I've noticed how rain feels artificial the way it feels. Really? No Indian summer. Christmas adverts already too. Paul, don't get me started. They're all over YouTube and everything. Blackberry Week was in August, not October, says Miss with a hiss. The mushroom foragers are happy for an early autumn, says Cron. Leslie has noticed it, Matthew. Dilip said it's windy today, and Ruti says so true. I think so. Yes, autumn came suddenly, Lyra. Like bang, it's here, right? Oh, did you? Sash had loads of crickets visiting their house. Was it good though, Sash? Did you enjoy it? I captured this, by the way. And the thing is, it's odd because see if you see what I didn't see. I took this picture because I thought that's a lovely rainbow right there because it's been absolutely peeing down here. Like it pees down and then there's lots of sunshine. Pees down, lots of sunshine, right? And so let me just show you my picture. See if you see what I didn't see first of all. So you can see the rainbow, but what I didn't realize is it's a double rainbow. Can you see the double rainbow? I am God is in the comments saying, sorry for the fast change in seasons. Berry says September is the new April. Oh, Ian, 23rd September, equinox, autumn. Hugh wants a lock-in. What kind of lock-in? Double rainbow drumstick. I didn't realize I only saw the first one. I was going to show you the picture of the first one because I love rainbows. And oh, is it a rainbow reflection, Peter? And Elaine said, if it's not making sense, my grandpa used to say, then it's not the truth. I can relate to that. Absolutely. Oh no, Sally Ann had a tall sunflower, 12 feet. Are you? Wow. But the wind has broken it, sadly. Sorry to hear that. You had a double the other day, synchronized. Paradise. Fruit are ripened too quick this year. Back to roots. Matthew, I think a lot of people are relating to what you had to say. I certainly do relate to what you had to say. Yes, indeed. And but harvest is on the way. And here we have a beautiful picture of harvest from Dr. Robert. Not a doctor. Look at this. Magnificent. Veg. Dr. Robert, I want to share a picture with you of the vegetables I've just picked from my allotment. They look yummy. This year I grew sweet corn, cabbages, sprouts, melons, onions, garlic, courgettes, tomatoes, mashed potatoes, squash. It's only my second year and I do love the emotional well-being I gain from it as well as the organic food I eat. I always use organic seeds. I wanted to say I would be happy to help in any way I can with your idea of a pick your own plot. Thank you. I really want to do that. I've been talking with people about it. I don't know if you heard that the other week. I was talking about how I would like to buy some land so that we can cultivate it into a pick your own farm. I love that idea. I love it. Kath, doesn't it look amazing? Marco, nothing better than homegrown. I mean, I have not grown a lot of vegetables, but I have grown potatoes and I have grown tomatoes. I think those are kind of like the easy ones. And both were absolutely delicious. Impressive and encouraging, says Maria. Well done, Robert. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And what else I want to say to you? Oh, thank you, Louisa, for your email, along with many others to do with the NSPCC. And Louisa said, dear Sonia, I can confirm I have seen and experienced firsthand that they shut down child abuse reported by concerned mothers. They are gatekeepers and were instrumental in dismantling child protection. I hear you. And I really think this is going to become a bigger feature because I've had a few whistleblowers now to do with the NSPCC who've come forward and said, you were right, there's something desperately wrong in that organization. It's all right, Frankie. What are you talking about? And also, I did see somebody say that, and thank you, because that is correct. Somebody said about the march on Saturday. No, we weren't, I'm paraphrasing what you said, because I said it was good to see that there weren't any Israeli flags. And somebody said, well, why would you need them when there were Zionists leading it? And you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Tommy Robinson is a Zionist. To my knowledge, Katie Hopkins is, unless she's now changed that. And Lawrence Fox is a Zionist. So yes, absolute Zionists were leading that march. I acknowledge that. But what was refreshing was not to see any Israeli flags, which makes a change. Guys, want to see one of our super hot viewers? She's going to hate me for saying that. But I think she is hot. And she's wearing a Wake Up t-shirt. Let me find her. Where is she? Here she is. Marlena Bonham, who's often in the comments. How hot is she? Am I allowed to say that? Or would that be considered some kind of problematic issue in our Me Too world? And stand up and be counted. You look fantastic in that t-shirt, Marlena. Thank you for getting it. Yes, hot, says Blue Nomad. Randy wants to know if she's single. I have no idea. No idea at all. Red hot, says 2 meter Peter. Yeah, she is literally red hot. We love her. She's fabulous, fabulous lady. And she's been getting loads of compliments. It's wonderful. Stand up and be counted. Phil said very hot. Absolutely. She is. She's fabulous. Beautiful, says Gina. We love Marlena. Marlena, thank you for sending that picture. Absolutely gorgeous. You are a star, my darling. And as always, thank you. Wonderful, wonderful people. Thank you to all of our donators, people on the super chat today. Thank you as ever, Fred and Bex and Rachel. Thank you, Rachel, for supporting my work. Thank you. And Catherine and Peter and Christopher Drew and Synchronized Soul. Thank you all so much. And thank you, however you donate to Wake Up. I appreciate it. And so thank you to Ian J, to Margaret R, to Catherine M, to John G, to Peter B, to F Young, to S Brown. And somebody had tweeted me about, are you going to do podcasts? It is a podcast and you can find it on Spotify, but also YouTube have just been informed me that Wake Up, because we've done so many episodes, has now become eligible to be set as podcasts, which is great news. And they're now available on YouTube Music and will receive better discovery across YouTube, apparently. Thank you. I appreciate that very, 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 very much. I want to say happy birthday to lovely Priscilla, who's a regular Wake Up supporter. Thank you so much, darling. It was her birthday on Saturday. Yesterday was the birthday of Amy Winehouse, and I actually did prepare quite a substantial piece to talk about Amy Winehouse and the betrayals of Amy Winehouse, but I'm going to do that on another day now, and probably as a separate video, because a lot of what happened to Amy Winehouse touched me deeply, and there were so many people who betrayed her, and I think there are still huge question marks over Amy Winehouse's death. It's not going to be a Wake Up investigation. It may just be a separate piece where I'm reflecting on it. But today is the birthday of my daughter. My darling daughter, and it whizzes me back 28 years ago, St Mary's Hospital in Paddington. It's funny because my daughter was born in the same hospital as Prince Harry on the same day, although he's older than my daughter. But happy birthday, my darling. You are your mummy's pride and joy. It doesn't matter whether you're 8 minutes, 8 months, 8 years, 28, whatever. I love you so much. I'm so incredibly proud of you, and you are so much of my reason for doing what I do. And I just want you to know that. And I can't wait for us to all party today to celebrate your special day, because I love my daughter so deeply, as indeed do many parents. Not love my daughter so deeply, because that would be weird, but love their own daughters so deeply. Happy birthday. Happy candle cake. Happy birthday. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes. Happy birthday to my baby girl. Happy birthday to my baby girl. Right. So I want to end on this. Somebody said this to me, because I was saying, oh, I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to do that, but I've got to wait until I get this. And they said to me, what would you do if nothing held you back? If you had no obstacles, no challenges, just a clear road, what then? And I thought about that, kind of blew my mind a little bit, because we don't think in terms of that, do we? We think I can't necessarily do that because A, B, and C is in the way, whether it's money or equipment or whatever it is. But what if nothing was holding you back? You had everything that you needed in order to be able to progress. What then? And I thought maybe that's what they should be teaching in school, because that allows your mind to open up. When children are at school, they're kind of put into these neat little boxes, aren't they? What do you want to be when you're older, right? What do you want to be? Do you want to be a secretary? Do you want to be a firefighter? Do you want to be a police officer? Do you want to be a judge? What do you want to be? What about saying to them, you can be anything if there were no obstacles. What would it be? Now, there are obviously realities to be faced here, okay? Somebody who is 24 stone is probably not going to be a ballerina unless very serious scenarios take place in order to be able to enable that. But for the most part, you right there, now, this minute, what would you do if nothing was holding you back? And I think that's an important question to ask ourselves, because one of the things that I think immediately that it makes you do is it makes you search internally. Okay, what matters to you? Now, what I would do if nothing was holding me back is what I'm doing now, but on a bigger platform and with much bigger effects and all of that stuff. But I'm one of those people where content comes first. I've worked in studios that are worth millions and they just put out absolute dross. So content matters over slick and glossy presentation or anything else. Okay. So, but ultimately, I know what I would do if so the obstacles I face are purely financial. I want to be able to buy land. I want to be able to get a studio. I want to be able to train up the next lot of journalists. That's what I want to do, those things. So that's all financial. So, but if nothing held me back, those are the things I would do. And, you know, sometimes when we're in a situation where we know we're not in the right place and we're capable of so much more, of bringing so much more to the world, it can feel like we're on this choppy, stormy sea, can't it? It's sometimes difficult to know where we stand or sit because we've got so many influences coming at us. As I say, children are told this and that, and parents put pressure on children as well. But if you feel you are being held back by forces that are not of your own making, then consider there may be something else at play, because sometimes on a conscious level, we're not aware of what's holding us back. But dig a bit deeper. Are you not pursuing your dreams and your ambitions because you are scared of failure? People have a fear of failure, that if they do that thing that they've been promising to do forever, if they do it, what if nobody cares? So what? I step up in front of you Monday and Friday. It's 11:11. I step in front of you Monday and Friday, talking to you about things that matter to me and which I think may matter to my viewers, but they might not. And I risk that because if anything that you do is a risk in itself. People also have a fear of being seen, acknowledged. I was thinking about Wayne Leighton starting his life off in care. And sometimes you're kind of like, when you're in a care situation, it's taken away from the personal. And so, you know, one person will take care of whatever 20 kids. So there's no kind of one-to-one. And so children who've been through a care system often have a fear of being seen because they weren't when they were younger. And I think that maybe to question this, but also, are you too much of a perfectionist? Some people don't get started on what they want to do because they feel they have to have all these things in place. So a friend of mine said that she wants to do podcasts, but she hasn't got the right equipment. And I said, start with what you have. It's that expression, right? I cannot remember expressions, but it's kind of like, start where you are, start with what you have, right? I think for the most part, we are given enough tools to start us on a path of where we need to be going. Because I'm very much of the mind that we are here for a reason, but you may think there is no reason to your existence, and that's fine as well. But I think my point about today is it may not be outside circumstances that are holding you back. It may be you. It may be internalized. You may be consciously or unconsciously sabotaging yourself for any number of reasons. And it could be insecurity, it could be perfectionism, it could be fear of failure, it could be, some people, there's that old expression, and that is it's lonely at the top, but you eat better, which I can kind of understand. Not that I'm at the top of my profession, although certainly I feel I'm at the top of my game. But there are other people who are kind of much more famous than me, much more wealthier than me. And that's all fine as well. But there is no doubt about it that the more successful you become, the smaller your circle, your inner circle becomes, because it has to. Because take it from me, there are some awful backstabbers out there. And I speak from experience. But that doesn't mean that I believe everybody's a backstabber, not at all. So I think that what you need to do is really, you need to protect your energy. Whatever you're thinking, if you feel that you're not achieving what you need to do, please protect your energy. Please stop attacking yourself. Please take note of the small voice within. Is it yours? Is it somebody else's? Please have more positive affirmations about yourself. I bet you, no matter what, there's that looking glass effect, isn't it? And where people think of themselves how other people think of them. Stop doing that. right? Stop doing that. Give yourself more positive affirmations to reframe any kind of negative thinking or negative input that is coming at you, and identify those obstacles. Be honest with yourself. Acknowledge patterns and behaviors that are holding you back. That could be drink, drugs, whatever. Acknowledge them if they exist, and uncover whatever is limiting your beliefs in yourself. It's a really good thing to write them down. Sometimes I just do a free flow of everything about what I think. But I think that we're getting to a stage now where people are kind of self-realizing in incredible ways. And the internet enables us to do that. A lot of people who wouldn't be given a platform by legacy media are able to get onto the internet and produce their own content. There's some brilliant stuff out there. There's also some dross out there, but there's some brilliant stuff out there from people who, as I say, would not be given a platform in the conventional way. And so they're having to do it themselves. And how great are they doing it themselves? So, yeah. September the 15th, the day of mastery, meditation. Have the courage to want the very best for yourself. Where do you get that from? Drink is a drug, said T. Yes, it is. And drink can take you off your course. Vanessa said, we are all unique, have potential and have free will. Indeed, we do. And big hearts to you too, Adele. And Conrad, I think this is a brilliant, frankly, I think this sums up a lot of what we've talked about today. Conrad said, in times of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act. Yes, indeed it did. It does, rather. And George Orwell would have known that more than most people. And Ray J claims to be I think, Ray J, you're the one who sent me the email, right? You're saying that you're probably somebody who's followed me for the longest time on the internet. Well, big up yourself, mate. You're a star. Thank you. And Ray J said the brilliant stuff on the internet is why they need it restricted. Absolutely. Marie says the world hasn't been the same since the pandemic, in my opinion. And Randy said, tell free will to a bear in a zoo. I don't think I'm going to do that. Maria Scamdemic, got you. Right. POS, since the first Raw. Really amazing. Love that. Thank you. Wonderful stuff. Bless you too, Dilip. Right. I'm going to end on a quote because that's what we do around here, right? And that is, there are no limits in what you can achieve with your life, except the limits you accept in your own mind. Stop limiting yourself, people. You are wonderful. You are amazing. I love you. We are surrounded by so much to see. I'm here as best I can to be a truth seeker, but I don't claim to get it all right. Please keep sending me your messages and try not to make them abusive, because the moment I detect is abusive, it gets canned. Okay, it gets canned. But I love you lots, and I will see you on Friday. Have a wonderful... yes, Shin, you were there as well for the first Raw. Absolutely. You're welcome, Repair UK. Absolutely. Thank you, Mrs. Hall. What? Mrs. Hall has... Sonia, you're a huge inspiration, and thanks to you, she's lost 1 stone, 10 pounds. Woo-hoo! We love that. Bless you too, Freedom Journey. Bless you all. Have a brilliant day. Thank you, MB. God love you. And Jan loves this show, which sounds like Jan has excellent taste. I will see you Monday, everybody. Take good care of yourself. Lots of love. Have a brilliant, brilliant Monday.